The member from Kitchener-Waterloo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Premier. After having travelled across the province over the last month for pre-budget consultations, it has become increasingly clear to New Democrats that Ontario is divided. We heard some heartbreaking and painful experiences from the people of this province. On the one hand, there is an Ontario where a small group of powerful insiders who have the ear of the Premier are flourishing. Then there's the rest of Ontarians who are struggling to keep up. They're worried about finding good jobs, they're worried about keeping good jobs, and retiring from good jobs. Premier, what does this government have to say to Ontario's youth who are struggling to find work, to people who are working 3 jobs to make ends meet, to people whose jobs are at risk after a lifetime of service?
Well, Mr. Speaker, what I would say to people who are in those situations, who are struggling, Mr. Speaker, is that I understand that this is a challenging time. As I've said before, Mr. Speaker, it's a challenging time in the national economy. Ontario is leading that economy, though, Mr. Speaker. Ontario is leading in this country in terms of job creation, Mr. Speaker, in terms of foreign direct investment, which leads to jobs, in terms of investment, Mr. Speaker, which is creating jobs. So we are doing everything in our power to increase the growth in the province, Mr. Speaker, to stay as a leader in the country, Mr. Speaker. It is our responsibility as the largest province in the country, the most diverse economy in the country, to be strong, Mr. Speaker, particularly when there are other economies that are struggling. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, our investments in infrastructure, in people's talent and skills, in their retirement security, and I'm working with business, is working. We are creating jobs, Mr. Speaker, working together. We will continue to do that.
Supplementary.
Premier, the pre-budget consultations have been a stark reminder that the gap between those that are doing well and those who are falling behind is only getting wider. St. Catharines, Niagara and Sudbury have unemployment rates of 8.6, 2 points above the provincial average. Windsor's unemployment rate is 9.3%, the highest in Canada. Windsor also has the highest youth unemployment rate in the country for the last 5 months and counting. These are not rates that warrant bragging rights. Unlike this government, New Democrats are listening to families, to students and to seniors, and they're saying that good jobs are hard to find and hard to keep. Premier, what does this government have to say to the thousands of Ontarians that are unemployed, underemployed and precariously employed under the Liberal watch?
Thank you, Premier.
Again, I would say to the member opposite that I'm sure that she has listened with interest then, as we have announced, as Chrysler announced more jobs in Windsor than expected, Mr. Speaker, that as she has heard the job numbers over the last couple of months, Mr. Speaker, with net new jobs of more than 40,000, Mr. Speaker, and the vast majority of those are full-time jobs, Mr. Speaker. So I know that the member opposite is paying attention to those. And in terms of listening to the people in the province, Mr. Speaker, so we did pre-budget consultations across the province. 9 weeks of engagement of in-person, online, written and telephone engagement, Mr. Speaker. 20 in-person consultations in 12 cities, heard from 700 people, Mr. Speaker. So there are thousands of people from around the province from whom we have heard, Mr. Speaker, and we have heard their concerns. Their concerns will be reflected in the budget. And the fact is, Mr. Speaker, the plan we've put in place, working with the private sector, because government doesn't create jobs, it's working.
Thank you.